Hey, everybody. Email and Coffee with Joy Brooks. Today I'm speaking with my friend Lara, who will tell us a little bit about herself.
Hello, thanks for having me on, Joy. It's nice to be here, especially after listening to so many other email and coffee podcasts. It's really
I've got a fan.
yeah. I enjoy hearing what everybody has to say. This is fun. Yeah, so about myself, I could be specific, but I'm going to start really vague. I'm an optimist. And I believe that we are all connected. And as such, who am I? Well, part of it is my belief and recognition that this planet is becoming less hospitable, not just for us, but for animals, for plants, soil, water. You've heard, all of these things probably that are happening in the world, right? So did you see on the news just the other day, there was a tornado in California?
A two-eye tornado.
Two. Jeez. Yeah. I mean,
it had two eyes. As it came in, it made two eyes.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, that's not common at all. And so I would say a big part of who I am with what I've just shared is that I feel like we all have the responsibility to reverse that, to reverse these major climate shifts. And we owe it to our present and future generations to do that because they need to survive. But more than that, they need to thrive. And so I guess the other big piece of who I am is I'm a person who likes to promote global cooperation and collaboration. So, being that we all must do our part, and a lot of this global cooperation and innovation that's happening now is actually happening in English, that's where my professional part comes in. So, it just out of curiosity. Hello?
That's okay. No takey phony.
I love hearing people's different ringtones.
Leave a message. Thank you, please. Go ahead.
But yeah, so that's one of the things that I've loved doing throughout my life is trying to get people from many different backgrounds together and talking. And today, if you look at it, the language that is being used for all of this global cooperation is English. And I wonder, have you heard about this, Joy? There are more people who grew up speaking other languages speaking English than people who grew up speaking English.
So you mean there are more people that speak English as a second language than people who speak English?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, look at India all by itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tons of languages spoken there, and English is
right. English is lingua franca. Go ahead, say it. Lingua franca.
Lingua franca.
Yes.
That's how I pronounce it.
It has become what they call that. Yes.
It has. And but so here's the thing. Imagine in this arena of multinational cooperation here, you've got people working with each other from around the world. Not all of them speak as confidently as they'd like. So I think your listeners can probably empathize with this, right? Maybe some of your listeners do come from other language backgrounds. Those who haven't probably had to take another language in school. Did you take a foreign language?
I took a living one and two dead ones.
Yes.
So I took Spanish, Latin, and Greek.
Nice. I wish I had taken Latin. I feel like it would have been a bit of a shortcut, but Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, that all kinds of...
Well,
it helps when trying to read.
Latin is the mother of our language today.
Yeah.
The English-speaking language today.
Yeah, it's a big part of it, yeah. But so I think, with your experience, let's say of Spanish, because you're not going to be speaking Latin in the streets. Right?
No. I could, the only one who would recognize me would be the Pope, but go ahead.
And there are videos of people who actually go out and do that to try to see if other people will understand them. And it's really, really funny to watch those videos. But you could probably empathize with this idea of if you're trying to communicate in a language that you're not entirely comfortable speaking, how it can affect you, right? So think about the people who, they do decide, okay, I'm going to speak. I need to say this, right? So they get out of this hesitancy to speak because, oh God, are they going to understand me? Am I going to make a mistake, right? Those are fears a lot of us share when we're speaking in another language, in our own languages, really. But then imagine that they say the thing and people say, oh, sorry, what was that? Could you say that? What did you say? Right? That gets old after a while, and it can be really deflating. And, even to the extent sometimes people just get ignored.
There's a bit of a human element there because I've realized recently how global things are getting, and that I'm speaking with non-English speakers. So they are taking an enormous amount of energy and time to speak English to me.
Yeah.
If I don't understand them, first of all, I should be listening intently.
Yeah.
Because there's nuance that the words may not be displaying. So they may say something, but their face is showing something else. So you need to understand that, right?
Yeah.
And when you don't understand something, it really is to their benefit that you explain that you don't understand, but you just don't go, huh?
Right. Yeah.
That's terrible. Would you do that to your own friend? And if you did, you realize how disrespectful that is. So, can you say that again? What did you mean by that? Something so that they first of all see that you're there with them, and that you're having a conversation, a discussion, because they're also learning from you.
It's mutual.
And that would be even if you were both speaking the same language. Again, if you were to tell me something in English, and I'm an English speaker, and I were to be like, what did you just say? I mean, knowing you as a best friend, I might say, what?
Right.
As a best friend. But if I was an associate at a luncheon sitting table, I would be like, wow, what happened? I'm not, I don't understand. What was that? So, there's a little bit of, respect.
Yeah, we have to adjust how we say things with everybody.
With everybody.
That's how it is if we want to get along. And that's part of what I teach. So, coming back to all of this, you were asking, tell me about yourself. So all of these lofty and more general things here, really essentially what it comes down to is I really enjoy helping people to communicate effectively and confidently. And it just so happens that most of my training, expertise, and experience is with non-native English speakers. So I hesitate to use the word non-native English speaker, but it's a lot shorter than saying people who grew up speaking other languages. So, even though that's more my belief, so I've been helping people with this. I started doing this at the university level with graduate students. And these days about 3 years ago, I started testing the waters. And then the last 2 years, I've gotten really serious and have been working with professionals in the sustainability field, in sustainability related fields, I should say, to speak English more effectively and confidently so that when they are cooperating globally and working in these multinational organizations, that they're able to speak and be understood. And so you can find me on LinkedIn. I have a lot of content out there to help people with this. So.
What is your full name?
What is my full name? My full name is Lara R for what is it? Rapunzel? No, Rumpelstiltskin. Wallace. No, I don't ever share my middle name.
So people would be able to look you up on LinkedIn. Lara Wallace.
Lara Wallace, PhD. And my name is a bit different from what people usually expect. It is spelled Lara. So. Yeah.
So good. So it's interesting that what you're doing is you're taking your skill, and you're actually using it in such a specific way that you're giving back. It's not just you're giving back your skill, period. You're literally giving back to a particular sector that you're interested in.
Yeah.
You're doing two things at once.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm finally able to combine all of these different parts of myself and really focus it into a career path that helps me to help other people who are helping the planet.
Yes. Well, that's very, it's not something that everyone can find. And when you find it, it's sort of bullseye.
Yeah, it feels great. Because a couple of years ago when I was thinking, I mean, I've been aware of this situation for a long time with, all of the different effects of climate change. And I kept thinking, God, how can I help? I can do things personally, small things, and that's all well and good and everything. But I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to go back to school to get environmental science or engineering or, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to go back to school again. Mm-hmm. I'd rather just learn in life and through my own research about things. Mm-hmm. But I am curious, So when I was teaching at the university, I had graduate students from all kinds of different programs. So like pretty much any field of study, name it. And I have probably had students in that, and I've helped them to be able to communicate their research, mm-hmm. whether through writing or through speaking, especially through speaking. But what always fascinated me were the research projects of people in communication and development studies. I think that's what it's called. ComDev. We always say ComDev. And the people who were in environmental studies. I loved working with them because they were doing such interesting things, mm-hmm. and that I could help them to articulate what they were doing, mm-hmm. to a variety of different audiences. It felt really good to see those light bulbs go off, hey, I gave this presentation and I did what you said about XYZ with my tone or with pausing. And oh my God, I got so many compliments and people really enjoyed my presentation. And my advisor came up to me afterwards to say how well I did. I love moments like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's really great. And when you add on that layer of, and my area of research is in like GIS mapping, and I'm looking to see if people are adhering to these treaties and not developing this land that shouldn't be developed. That kind of stuff. It's great. I feel like I'm able to align my passion with my expertise. So
are the people that you're working with, are they they're already English speakers, but they may not have the vocabulary and may not have the speaking skills? In other words, conversationally, they would be okay. So if mm-hmm. they were traveling in the United States, they would be able to find the bathroom, have a meal, get directions, but they may not necessarily be able to have a scientific conversation because all of those words are not necessarily. Sometimes they're only in English. So, like a lot of the words are English words that they'll be speaking their own language, and then they'll talk about this scientific term and it's suddenly in English because there is no translation. Except for the German translation, which is, one word that's like this long because that's this long, because that's how the Germans think. But
those nouns.
Yeah. So, a screwdriver. I think that's one of the longest words in German. It's like a thing that turns a thing, that does a thing, that screws a thing, and it's this long. I'm sorry, this long. Besides, like
Some people are like that. Yeah, some people are like that, but others are, they speak English, they can speak it fluently, but they've reached this level where, yeah, they can make themselves understood, but they know they can do better. Right? So it's this phenomenon that I see with a lot of high achievers, right? Where you do really well. Yeah, you can definitely speak English. You can make yourself understood. Sure, you have a strong accent. Yes, there are some things you can do to adjust how you're speaking so that people can more easily understand you. You've got the grammar, you have the language, for the most part, the words, right? But you realize how much more there is to learn. And therefore, you feel like, oh, this is not good enough. Or you know how you can express yourself on that same topic in your own language very comfortably, very articulately, but you just don't feel that same level of confidence or ability in English. So a lot of times I'm working with people like that who usually they do have the technical terms, which is good because I can't be a content expert in every single sustainability related field. There are not enough lifetimes for me to live to learn all of those words. But yeah, sometimes people will have difficulty with nuances like look versus see.
Right.
I'm still sorting that out. So that's when we talk vocab. But usually it's more about how can you step outside of yourself and your worries and your fears to be able to connect with people and communicate effectively with them. So it's technique.
It almost would work with an English speaking person.
Oh, it does. Actually, it does. That's the hilarious thing. So I focus on people who don't speak English as their first language, but a lot of times after working with me, people will say, oh, you know what? I've been trying these techniques in my own language and my communication with my family has improved.
Exactly. When we're trying to get our point across and we're speaking a separate language, the question everyone always says when they meet somebody that speaks more than one language, we always say, do you dream in X language, right? Do you speak in X language? And invariably, they say things like, I don't even think about it. It's just happening. They may say, yeah, sometimes I dream in foreign languages, but when they're talking, it's almost like an involuntary response. Like somebody hits your knee and your leg flies up. An English person, somebody who speaks more than one language will respond in the language that they're being spoken to with the ability that they have. They're not necessarily saying, oh, I must think now in English. And now it just literally happens. Now they may want to say something and a few of those words, they may have a problem expressing. And, depending on how confident they are as a speaker, they may be able to say, oh, I don't know the word, it means this, and the other person will say, oh, you mean X. Oh, yes, that's what I mean. And they'll just go with it. But somebody else may be shy and say, I can't answer the question because I don't know the word that I'm thinking of. I understand what the person just said to me, but I'm having a problem. I don't want to appear stupid. Or, that whatever. So that's the problem. It's being confident. And we do it in English too. If you were to ask me something and I wasn't sure how to react to you, I might be hesitant to answer in my own speaking language, only because I can't think of the right way to say it.
Yeah. And you don't want to come across as something that you're not. You don't want to come across as not good enough. And so what do? You do like some of the people I've spoken with when I ask them, well, how are things going at work? How's your English? Blah, blah, blah. I've had some people say, oh my God, you don't know how many times I have been in a meeting and have freaked out because I've forgotten a word, or I just don't feel like I can express it. And I just end the meeting and say, you know what, I'll follow up by email. And then they follow up by email because they can take their time, they can edit, they can go back through. Or like several people I've spoken with who, they're at, like senior levels of research, yet they let the junior people speak for them because they don't feel like they can express themselves as well as they need to in English. And well, this guy, he can speak better than I can, so let's just let him do all the talking. Right? That's a lot of times what happens. And so what I want to do, what I work with my clients on, is to help them to get over that so they can still speak and be understood. Mm-hmm. It's really a combination of, like you said, confidence. So building confidence, not just, we don't do stuff like affirmations or whatever, but we do work on a lot of beliefs, mindset issues. Mm-hmm. Because if that voice in your head is really mean to you, like one of my clients, the first one to go through the effective English course with coaching, she would, after a meeting, just replay the thing in her head. And that critic in her head would constantly say, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. Oh, you really shouldn't have said it like that. Or why didn't you just say this? Or, oh my God, you sound so stupid. Why did you? Mm. Okay, so we found this out by her taking the time together with me, talking it out, doing some journaling. And we looked for ways to kind of reduce that voice, stop that negative thought cycle, interrupt it with something more positive, and more tethered in reality and connection with other people. Right. And just, we did a lot of really deep work. And one of the surprising side effects that it had for her was, instead of, like, this was her before, she would go to bed, just about as she was ready to sleep, she would remember that meeting. And then, of course, she would start running all of the things she wished she had said. Yeah. And then beating herself up about it. And then pretty soon it's 3:00 in the morning. She couldn't sleep. Well, after we started really unpacking what's going on with how she believes herself to sound, and then also adding in the techniques, because that's a very, very strong part of what I do, is I help people with techniques to speak more effectively. Once she was able to combine those and then add to it that really strong pattern interrupt as soon as she recognizes, right? She came back and told me, oh my God, I have been sleeping so much better at night now because I'm taking what I've learned in this course with you. And like, I don't sit up stewing anymore.
Communication, it impacts so many different things. And what you just said is like packed with stuff. So first, one of the reasons why I do the podcast is exactly that. Because, oh my God, I can't believe what I said. I'm such a nincompoop. Oh, no. And I thought to myself, everyone thinks that.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to teach myself is not to be less of a nincompoop as much as it is to listen to other people and to be able to have that connection and communication. And as such, I'll be less of a nincompoop.
Isn't it interesting how all of that relates? It does.
It's not that, oh my God, I'm such a nincompoop. If you are more intentional in your conversation, and the only way to learn to do that is to have conversations and make mistakes, and not necessarily frame it as I'm a nincompoop, that's why I made the mistake. I said what I said, perhaps because for me, I'm a little unfiltered, but how do I become less unfiltered so that it doesn't sabotage the conversation?
Yeah.
Being unfiltered is not a problem. Sabotaging conversation is.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to sabotage my sleep in the process of that, then that's even worse.
It's not worth it.
Right? So, so the techniques, I almost don't have techniques other than do it, keep doing it, and don't stop doing it. And then intention comes with any of the things that I learned from it. But what are some, you mentioned techniques. What are, you don't have to go through all of your techniques, but what is a particular technique that you might tell someone to practice?
So, really, the one that keeps coming up again and again and again is breathing.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It really is. It's because here's the thing. And actually yesterday I posted on LinkedIn a, 3 reasons to practice breathing for public speaking. I think that's what I ended up calling it. It's in the featured section of my profile. I definitely recommend that people take a look at it. But yeah, breathing is at the core of everything that we do. So with that client that I was telling you about, who now she does speak better, but sleeps better at night is what I wanted to say. She had, what we worked on was breathing. Actually, I mean, like I kick it kind of like this sometimes when we're working on breathing. Sometimes we will literally just practice breathing. So hit that for an inhale and try to inhale slowly the whole time, and then hold, exhale.
I love all those types of sounds.
Me too. And you would never expect to do this in a language coaching situation, but you'd be surprised how effective, well, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but people tend to be surprised at how effective it is. Because what happens when you train yourself to, instead of just react immediately, to stop and breathe, and there are many, specific types of breathing, but let's just say breathe for short, right? Then that can help you to take a second to calm your nervous system so that you're not reacting and saying something you don't want to. Like this particular person, she's the type of person who's very, very polite, but she's also very direct and has a lot of important stuff to say. And when she doesn't feel like she's being listened to, she'll be polite, she'll be polite, she'll be polite. And then at some point, somebody's going to say something or they won't listen. And look, I told you that you needed to, it's just reacting. And she had a few moments like that where she would react and either say something like that or get on and, send an angry email. And what she started doing instead of reacting was that, let's just stop and breathe. Calm myself down first. How would I like to be treated in this situation if I were that person? And it changed a lot. It changed a lot for her. It's something that a lot of us don't remember. We are not always taught that breathing can be powerful. And what you were saying reminds me of somebody commented yesterday on that post, because, oh my God, she had such a good idea. And the way that she said it, well, let me share the idea first, and hopefully I can remember what exactly she said. But she said that she uses breathing not only for what I shared with you, but what she offered to the conversation was when she's listening to somebody and she just really wants to say something and she really wants to cut in and interrupt. And she's found that when she has that really high energy and wants to do that, but the other person's not finished, she has found that she breathes to get herself to wait, to focus, to stay connected to the other person instead of
interrupting.
Exactly.
That's a very good technique for me, because I'm very high energy when I get involved in a conversation, more than willing to inject, and I'm not necessarily doing it politely. And I do forget. So if I start breathing and I have a piece of paper and I write it down, it would be far better than just, bringing the conversation to a standstill and injecting my opinion.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good use of breathing. And of course, there are many, many other reasons why breathing is useful and can be so helpful.
There is, and I don't know where I heard it, but recently, there is like you said, there are different types of breathing, but there's scientific proof that breathing actually triggers something in the brain that relaxes. That there's a number of different things. So it's not just you're breathing and you're attempting to avoid something. You're actually triggering something in
some sort of physiological process.
Yes, exactly. And in the long run, the habit will be a healthy habit. It's not just, I need to do this now because I'm going to punch somebody in the face. It's over the long term, be like, why would I even want to punch anybody in the face? That's ridiculous. I'm such a nincompoop. And you'll stop even thinking about it.
Well, and then there's that reaction, right? A lot of times we learn that, oh my God, I just want to punch them in the face kind of thing. And then, when you breathe, you realize, okay, really, do I actually want to? No, I don't. Things would go very badly. Let me delete that from.
And in a year or two from this point, you won't even be thinking that. And you'll have to say, oh, you know what? Last year I probably would have punched him in the face.
Yeah.
There are things that, like I said, that even English speaking people can practice communication. That you're teaching non-native speakers. And that includes there's a one-on-one conversation, obviously, and you can have that even one-on-one with a stranger, or you can have it with a close friend or a family member. So it's a one-on-one has dimension, and then you've got a crowd of people, and then you've got on a stage of people, and all of those are different.
Yeah.
And while I may say to myself, I have no problem one-on-one. I become uncomfortable in a crowd, and I'm off the chart uncomfortable on stage. And have little to no desire to do it. I don't want to, I don't even see the point in doing it. Do I have anything to say? Yeah, but let somebody else say it. Literally. It's like what I have to say is not so dramatically different. Allow someone else to say it. Have fun with that knee knocking experience. To me, getting on stage, it's like jumping off of a cliff where you can't see the bottom.
Okay, so I started out my undergrad as a music major, and I remember that one of the requirements was public speaking. And I absolutely was terrified, just like that. I will not even take the class. I am not going to do this. And then I think when I changed majors to Spanish, it was no longer a requirement. Suffice it to say, I got out of that because I was scared to death of it. And that's a really common fear. And it's so common and so well known that I have heard of multiple studies in psychology where if they want to measure people's cortisol, their stress response, like via cortisol, then sometimes one of the tasks that they'll give people is to give an impromptu presentation, have them do some public speaking. That's how scary.
I could do the impromptu.
Raise your stress response.
I could do, in a group of maybe 8 people, right?
Yeah.
But if you filled a stadium, no, I'd be like, bah, bah, bah. Can you hear me out there, people? And the thing is, a lot of people over time, or perhaps initially, they like that adrenaline. They like that feeling.
I know, that's my response.
And people that like to, jump out of an airplane. You can't even get me in an airplane. Now you want to throw me out of one? You want me to pay you for that? Come on. No. But I know people who love it, like it's on their bucket list.
Yeah, and that's great.
Yeah, exactly.
And for people who are who crave that attention and who thrive on that, that's wonderful that they don't have to deal with that. But for the rest of us, we have to learn to get comfortable if we're going to do that. Mm-hmm. Because if we aren't comfortable, it doesn't go well. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, I have become comfortable doing that. I can go up and do it. Sure, I might get a little bit nervous, but it's fine. Because fundamentally, what we have to keep in mind when we go up to speak to a group of people is why they are there. Why are all of these people here in front of you? I mean, maybe some of them have to be there. A lot of them might be there by choice, depending on what the event is, right? Mm-hmm. Chances are they want to hear what you have to say. That's why they're there. Mm-hmm. Chances are. There may be people in the audience, you look out and you see a whole lot of this. Mm-hmm. Right? Fine. Okay, that's what people do. You might see some people doing this because they're probably thinking of something they have to do and, they're stressed out about it. They're not thinking about you. They're not reacting to you, right? Mm-hmm. You might get people who are just like this because they're really hungry and hangry. Right. So the point is when you go out there, you have to be aware of the audience and understand that there are a large number of people who do want to hear what you have to say. And your job as a speaker is to connect with them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, depending on the type of event that you're speaking at, people appreciate authenticity and people understand nerves. Right. They get it. Because here you are up on stage. Thank God I'm not on stage right now, right? And so if something happens and you get up there and you look out, you say, wow, it's great to see everybody. Oh, I didn't realize how nervous I would be. Anyway, it's nice to, right? When you do something like that, it breaks the ice and it helps you feel it can help. I don't know if it would help everybody, mm-hmm. but it can help you feel a little bit better. And a lot of the people in the audience, they're going to say, yes, yeah, I get it. And they'll empathize and you've got a friendlier audience.
Right, right. For those people that do have the calling, and mm-hmm. when I say that, in other words, they do have something that is unique. Mm-hmm. And they do have some responsibility of getting that out. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, they'll need to speak. They really need to recognize the fact that people do sympathize with them. That, like you said, I'm glad I'm not up there. Yeah. But I really want to hear what this person has to say because I hear they're a genius.
Exactly. So let me support that person.
And then over time, I'd say it will always be nervous for them to come out. Are they going to become so famous that they're going to be in a stadium? Are they a rock star? No. Odds are they'll be in front of small to medium-sized conferences. And some of your sustainability people, maybe they'll make it to the UN. Okay, so that will be a big deal. That will be a big deal. But in a case like that, they don't even get to see who they're talking with. It's so huge. Mm-hmm. They're up behind a podium with a microphone, and perhaps the lights are on, and they see the first 15 rows.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's hard to see anything with stage lights.
Right? So, there's people need to be aware of that. But still, they're thinking, I call it stuttering, and I don't want to make fun of people who have a stutter, but I have a mental stutter in my head, which
disfluency.
A disfluency. It will, when I'm trying to get something out, say something, my head is in a loop.
Yeah.
And I'm literally saying to myself, shut up. I'm trying to say this. What was I trying to say? And I don't know what I was trying to say. So I appear to be I'm stubborn.
People do that. Yeah, that's a really common response.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it carries itself into nighttime sleeping behavior because like you had mentioned that people go at night and they're like, I can't believe I was such a nincompoop, and they replay it in their head. It's stuttering again. You're replaying it.
Yeah, we don't want to keep replaying it and build that in. That's not what we want to learn. We want to learn how to interrupt that, to recognize it when it happens, interrupt it, breathe, and think, okay, I know I could have done that better. What could I have done? Okay, this is not what you should think when you're in bed trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Try to dismiss it and wait. But, if, let's say you do give a presentation and you didn't do very well and you came away from it just feeling awful, and, somebody took you aside and expressed some concern, right? After it, you're not going to want to sit there and beat yourself up, because that's not going to do anything, right? You're not going to wallow in self-pity. That won't do anything either. Instead, you have to think, okay, what do I need to do differently next time so that I don't do this again? And it could be something as small as like introducing yourself to a group of colleagues. For example, when I was teaching at the university, every year when the new cohort of linguistics majors would come in, we would all have this big departmental meeting and everybody would introduce themselves. And, it was a long meeting. And I remember the first time I went, I did not bother thinking about it. I just thought, okay, I'll just introduce myself. Right? Actually, I don't even know if I knew that was going to happen. And I remember my colleagues, they all said these very well thought out things, what they did in the department, who they helped, and why you should come and see them, that kind of thing. And I hadn't thought at all about it. And I just got up and I said hi and introduced myself. And then I have no idea. I don't remember. I just remember thinking, I am never doing that again. And so what I did after that, instead of beating myself up going, oh, I wish I sounded as smart as so-and-so, or I wish I would have told them that I can help people with this. What I did was I took a notebook, and that notebook was especially for these kinds of meetings. And I put a Post-it note in there to mark the page. And I wrote the main points, right? Name, where my office is, who I help, what I do, why you should come see me, or whatever the main points were. And then every year I would just have that open and I'd have my main points and I'd speak off of it, and it was fine after that, and just the little things like that. So you ask yourself, okay, what do I need to do differently? I need to prepare. I didn't prepare at all, so next time I will be prepared. I'm going to make sure that I write down my main points, right? Or maybe I didn't practice and I had a really hard time articulating my thoughts. So a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, oh, I have so much trouble with presentations. I really sit there, I study, and I really try to remember everything I'm going to say. Okay, well, how are you doing that? What are you doing to remember these? Well, I read through my PowerPoint. Okay, do you read it through with your eyes, or do you read it through by talking? Well, I just read it with my eyes. There you go. Right? If you don't practice speaking, then it might not come out how you want. Right? So instead of beating yourself up, okay, it looks like for my next presentation, I need to make sure I plan those main points. And then I need to practice speaking it, practice talking it through. Right? And from there, you go along improving instead of repeating that same cycle of self-destruction, right? Instead, you're building your skills and you're building your self-confidence, because you're proving to yourself again and again, I can get better and better and better at this.
And that's really the point. Each time you do it, you're not repeating the same mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking a mistake, you're adding a solution to it, and you're doing it a little differently. And hopefully it's not another mistake in a different way, but it can be. It's okay. It can be. It can be. It can be lesser of a mistake until you get to a point where it doesn't even happen anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because I will, talking about breathing and sleeping and the inability to thereof, when there's lots of things going on, or I should say every single day at 1:00 at night or in the morning, the dog needs to go to the bathroom. So I get up. Now, my husband passed away 2 years ago, but for 25 years of our marriage, he would get up at 2:30 in the morning. I would make him his lunch. I'd make coffee for him. He'd go out the door at 3:30. I'd go back into the bedroom, read a book, and by 4:00 I would sleep till 6. But I had that 2:30 in the morning till 4:00 thing going on. Mm-hmm. So every single night. Now the dog needs to go out 1:00. I'm like, okay, I just hope I can get back to bed. Mm-hmm. So dog goes outside, comes back. Dog goes back to bed.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm laying there going, don't turn that TV on. Don't turn it on. Now, sometimes I'll have this little prayer moment. Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, God. I'm very grateful for this, that, and right back to bed. Like, thank you in the morning. Thank you very much, God. Thank you. All right, that works. Sometimes that works. Sometimes I'll be, thank you, God. I'm really grateful for this, but something happened during the day, and then my eyes pop open. I'm like, oh, no, I'm replaying, and now I'm replaying. Yeah. And that's, again, I'll say to myself, maybe I need to replay it. One night's not going to kill me. What went wrong? Right? And then I'm through it. Then I'm in it. Yeah. I'm down the rabbit hole. Other times I'll be like, okay, take a breath, count to 5, exhale, count to 5. And I'll do that, and I'm asleep. Mm-hmm. I'm asleep. But then there are times that I start playing the what did I do, what did I say card.
Yeah.
And it's almost by association, it just flows into other horrible moments in time. What do you do?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I keep being reminded of this. So I've studied martial arts, and one of my favorite and most effective teachers, Dr. G, he would teach us meditation. And in meditation, he always said, thoughts will enter. Your job is to, recognize that there's a thought, let it float on by, and return to your breath. Because the moment you let one negative thought in, it wants to invite the whole family. Mm-hmm. It wants to invite anger, jealousy, envy, like any of the whole family.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're already
a very large and extended family.
You're going down that, I'm so stupid, and so is so pretty, and so has so much more than I do. And
yeah. Oh, you see, that's the whole family. Everybody's coming in. And so once you open the door for that one thought and you don't say, okay, no, sorry, we're closed, and you go back to your breathing, mm-hmm. then yeah, it's so easy. And that's why breath work, that's why all of this is a practice, because we have to practice it. Mm-hmm. It's not something that a lot of us can just get and then we're good. I mean, I still have my moments where, if I'm not vigilant, then yeah, the family all comes in and they take up too much space in my head. And then I need to really, focus on doing something different. But really, it's a practice, returning to your breath and trying to calm yourself enough. I think your gratitude, when you start with the gratitude and just leave it there, that's the trick. It sounds like if you can just leave it there, mm-hmm. and then return to your breath. And then anytime something comes in, thank you. And I'm returning to my breath.
And, I thought the other night, while I was doing this, I was like, well, this is probably where they came up with the concept of counting sheep.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I'm so busy counting my breath because I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm doing that over and over again until I'm asleep.
Yeah.
So it's, 552 sheep. Because on the 552nd breath, up or down, I've fallen asleep.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work because sometimes there may be a need to be up. And I allow myself that, maybe there's something that needs to be figured out.
Yeah.
But most of the time, as Scarlett O'Hara would say, I'll think about that tomorrow. Think about that tomorrow. You don't need to be up all night long to solve a problem unless the problem needs to be solved by 6 a.m. and you don't have a solution.
Or if the problem presents and then all of a sudden the solutions just like they just come one after the other, then stay up.
Yeah. Sometimes sometimes what happens is I'll go to bed and I'll say, I'm feeling awful about this because I did X, Y, Z, whatever the problem is. And I can't do that, but I don't know what to do about it. And I won't even be thinking about it. And the solution will present itself. Right. If I calm myself down, very often it's the nose on my face and you're just not seeing it. And it's quite clear that, all I need to do is, not do what I've been doing. Oh, is that a solution? Oddly enough, it is. Don't do what you have been doing and allow something else to happen in its place. Sometimes it's that simple. And I think to myself, that's simple.
And how you get to that solution is often when you're rested. Rarely do we get those solutions when we're in that kind of high stress, high beating ourselves up space.
Yeah. And we all do it. We all do it in English and in every other native speaking language. We all do it. Yeah. And I have to say that I feel that anyone who speaks more than one language is a highly intelligent person. All right. Because with language, there's culture.
Yeah.
Right. So they already understand at least 2 separate cultures. So this is what I'm saying to people, to non-native speakers who are nervous, that my hat goes off to you because you're already a step above me. Because I can speak Spanish, but I speak it in such a way that it's a mockery of the language,
Oh, no.
When I go to Spain, if I were there for a month, my language would get better.
Yeah.
But initially, I'm back to 7th grade, going through, how do I say meatball?
Right.
Words that you learned in Spanish in 7th grade that you thought to yourself, why are we learning this word? I'll never use it.
Yeah.
Abundigas.
There it is. You got it.
Why would I use meatball? And now that I remember going to Spain and saying abundigas, and they looked at me and they said, what? And I'm like, meatball. And I'm like, no, it's this word. And I'm like, there you go. So it's cultural. Like a meatball in Spain would not be a meatball in Brazil.
And a tortilla in Spain is not the same as a tortilla in Mexico.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So all of these words are, that's why I say the language is cultural. Not just a language. You're not communicating. There's a whole culture behind everything that you say. The choice of word that you use is showing the culture and the way you think. So, for any non-native speaker who is, first of all, in sustainability, in environment, in science, in anything, I salute you. First of all, don't be so nervous because you've already got my attention.
Yeah. They have mine as
you know,
well.
and if you screw up a word or two, I'll just be realizing, hey, you know what? They're really so smart, but they're just like me. So, hunker down. You're going to learn something here.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and I wish more people had that attitude. That's why part of what I do is I try to bring people together from different nationalities through this conversation club that I run. We meet once a month on the last Monday of each month. So in a few days, we have Conversation Club if you'd like to join. But the idea is let's get together as many people as we can from different parts of the world. And we get into these small group discussions like pairs or groups of 3. And then we shift groups. So you get to speak with, several people during that Conversation Club event. And you get to stop and really listen and understand what they're saying. Because a lot of us, there are a lot of people who don't have that ability. They don't have the opportunity. And so here we go. Let's all get together and talk about some sustainability issue.
It can really be kumbaya. It really can be.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, oh, there's no such thing. We're all going to have our differences. But as we begin to learn about other people, and truly other people, a little bit out of our own tribes, we realize we all think differently, but we all think the same.
Yeah, that's the thing. There are a lot of commonalities that we have with people on the other side of the world. You don't know their culture. You don't, know the first thing, but oh my gosh, this person has the same experience when it comes to food waste that I do. They don't, right? So we find this out all of the time. It's so much fun when, people start saying, oh yeah, so-and-so did this and they said that.
It's, I think that a lot of people don't want to admit to how many common denominators run through all of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because once we disagree, there's something, I guess it's the anger end of it, that jumps in that says they are wrong.
Nah.
And I am right.
Oh yeah, of course.
And, and there are no common denominators, and there's no solution until you think like me.
Oh.
And that,
we've seen where that has gotten us in the world.
Exactly.
It's not helpful.
Even the most differential opinions, wildly opposing opinions, have a common denominator.
Yeah, you can always find something.
And that's what, make peace, not war, people.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Solve the damn problems. Stop arguing about them and solve them, because, it's a lot easier to argue. It is so easy to argue. It is so difficult to solve the problem. So why are we just being lazy? Just solve the problem already.
Try,
right?
And that's the thing, about the state of the world. There are people who are actively working on solving the problem.
Right.
And there is a lot of global cooperation. There's a lot of innovation. There's a lot for us to be excited about.
Right.
Yeah. And if I can help people to speak up and be understood, then I've done my job.
I salute you too.
Thank you. You too.
So it's the end of our lovely conversation. Is there anything that last thing you want to tell people? Perhaps where to find you, or,
Oh, yeah, I guess that probably would be helpful. I was going to say something else.
No, you can do that too.
Well, okay. No, it's, I think if there's one piece of advice that seems to make the most difference for my clients is, when you are talking with somebody and you're listening, shift how you're listening. Be aware of how you're listening. And specifically, instead of listening to respond, right, where you're listening, you're like, okay, what am I going to say next? Oh, they said this, I need to talk about. No, instead of listening to respond, really try to stay tuned into that person and listen to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you listen to understand, then you're more connected. And then you can communicate a lot more easily
mm-hmm.
in whatever language.
That's a beautiful thought.
Thanks. Yeah, it really helps people. And once they start implementing it, they're like, oh my God, my meetings just went so well today because I was listening to understand instead of listening to respond like I usually do. So if anybody would like to work on that, I have a lot of different services. The one that is designed specifically for people who did not grow up speaking English as their first language is my Effective English course, and it has twice weekly coaching. That one, we do a deep dive in what is effective communication, and then through personalized trainings, we practice that, both the technical side and the mindset side. But for everybody, I offer consultations. So if you have a big presentation coming up and it's freaking you out, come talk to me about it. Let's work on it. Let's make sure you're prepared and practiced and ready. I also have the E4S job interview prep course, which is for anybody who's looking for a job and they want to do well on their interviews, but they get into the interview and usually their mind goes blank, right? This happens to so many people. It's classic. So that's why I have this job interview preparation course, and I've got a system for you to follow. It's easy to learn. You can apply it to any job interview you have. And the people who've taken that course, they've come back and said, oh my gosh, that interview went so well. You know, they keep moving up through the interview process. So it's really good.
Where can people find those services? Are you on the web? Where's the easiest place for people to find you?
Thank you for asking. So the easiest place to find me is, I guess, my website. So that is www.english as in the number 4, sustainability.com. So englishforsustainability.com. Come by, check it out. Sign up for the newsletter. Be understood for your tips and games and opportunities. And
I'm going to sign up. There you go. And I'm very grateful. No, I'm very grateful for having you today. You have a certain way of expressing yourself that I'm now listening to. I've learned a lot, in other words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been really nice talking with you, and I'm always happy to listen to Email and Coffee. So it's fun to be on the other side. Thanks for bringing this.
You bet. All right, folks. That ends another hour with Email and Coffee. Have a great one, and speak. What was it again?
Speak up for yourself. Speak for your community. Speak up for the planet.
Speak understood. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.